Hey everybody, it's Mark Schultz here, and I'm here with another edition of our Recovery in Aviation. Today we're going to be talking about suppliers in the Pacific Northwest and how can you get involved in this economy. You do not want to miss this. Stick with me. Hey, I have some special guests with me this morning here. I have Mark Norton and Stacy Nelson. Hey, Mark, welcome. Glad to have you here this morning.
Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate it.
Hey, Mark, where are you located today?
So our company, Acrofab, is located in Liberty Lake, which is just kind of on the east side of the Spokane, Washington area.
Spokane, Washington. So if you're watching us internationally today, we're up in the Pacific Northwest, and Spokane is that second big city in the state of Washington on the eastern side of the state of Washington. Glad to have you with us, Mark. We're going to get into more details in a minute, really, in what you do. Stacy, hey, welcome. Stacy, who are you and what do you do?
Well, thanks for having me, Mark. Stacy Nelson. I am the Executive Director for the Inland Northwest Aerospace Consortium, known more as INWAC in our region. And we support aerospace manufacturers along the I90 Aerospace Corridor, which is, for those, again, internationally, east of Seattle, central Washington, going across North Idaho and into central Montana.
Great. Fantastic. Hey, listen, if you're out there today and you're watching and you want to learn about how to engage in the aviation aerospace economy, as things are recovering, you need to listen and stick with us today. And we're going to have a conversation about that. Hey, listen, I wanted to tell you that I always love knowing who's out there watching our broadcast. And if you're watching our broadcast today, hey, just drop me a comment and let me know who you are and where you're watching from. That's always fun. We're actually doing this live, and it's always great to see who's joining us. We have some guests joining already. We have Valero. Didn't say where he's from, but good afternoon. Glad to have you there. Welcome. If anybody else, if you want to throw your name and where you're located, we'll gladly recognize you. And then also during the broadcast, we're going to be taking some live questions. And so if you have any questions for us today, we would really love that you would submit those in the comments. And finally, if you want to share this, in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little arrow where you can share this, and your friends can watch us as well. Hey, listen, let's dive right in. Hey, Mark, you are, what is your role and responsibility in the Acrofab?
So I'm the Senior Manager for Business Development. So basically everything related to bringing in orders and revenue, and also around market strategy and pretty much anything that relates to helping to grow the business here.
Great, good. Can you tell the viewers out there today who Acrofab is and what you do?
Sure. So we are a precision sheet metal manufacturer. And what that means, we do everything from discrete parts to full assemblies. We're fairly heavily invested. Like a lot of people in this area, we're not in just one market. We're about 40% in the aerospace sector. And the other 60% of our business comes from various industries like energy and test and measurement and high advanced manufacturing electronics, I guess, be the best.
Okay, perfect. Now, when you say that you're in manufacturing, can you give me an idea of some of the products that Acrofab produces, just to give me an idea of the capabilities?
Sure. So we do a lot of fairly technical enclosures for people that do high-end electronics diagnostic materials, and that also goes into avionic components for aerospace, also structural parts. We serve a couple of the different major tier ones in the aerospace industry, and we supply them with everything from just a basic sheet metal flat piece of material to full parts that are assembled with electronics and electromechanical assembly as well.
Well, great. Sounds like you have a broad set of manufacturing capabilities, and we're going to talk a bit more about the type of companies you work with and the OEMs that you serve in a minute. Hey, I want to jump back to some of the people that are jumping on board. I see we have different people here. I see we have Vivek. He's coming here from India. Welcome, and I hope things are well there in India. I have actually an old friend of mine here, Marilyn Olson. She reached out to me not too long ago, and she's wrapping up school, I think, or maybe she's already done, down in Tulsa, Oklahoma at Spartan. And she actually told me she was looking for work. And so if we're going to talk about that a little bit later, and if there's any of you out there that are looking for a talented mechanic. I know that she's looking for work out there actually. And then we have Elaine Rodriguez from Tampa with the Capital Aviation Group, Gary Capital Aviation. Welcome. Glad to have you, here. Really appreciate you guys reaching out. Carrie Friendly from Everett. We have a local there. It looks like it's great. Just across the water from where I am. Glad to have you. And Barry LeBlanc. Barry coming to us from Moog Aerospace, or actually doesn't say Moog Aerospace, but Aerospace Moog Group. Got it, in Minneapolis. Hey, by the way, Barry, I am originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Used to work at Northwest Airlines. Got a soft spot for that area, so I'm really glad you're here joining us on the broadcast today. Hey, listen, when we started this out today, we said, hey, there's a lot of changes that are happening right now. Things are really accelerating in aviation aerospace right now. And we want to talk a little bit about what you can do to engage in this economy right now and how you can become part of it. Hey, listen, I did a little bit of research and I saw that there was maybe 1,300 or so aviation aerospace companies, suppliers in the Washington area right now. And I think that there's some different numbers there. But, Stacy, I know that you're in a particular area and you focus on maybe a smaller group of those in an area that is around the I90 corridor. What is the I90 corridor and what's so special about the companies that might be in that area?
Yeah. Well, the Pacific Northwest in the United States has the largest and oldest aerospace cluster in the world. And when people think about the Pacific Northwest aerospace cluster, we automatically think of the Puget Sound area. And for good reason. Boeing and, all of those suppliers are right there. But there's a whole nother group of fantastic companies with great capabilities that are located just east of that. And that's where the I-90 Aerospace Corridor comes into play. And so the INWAC represents the companies along that area from Moses Lake and Wenatchee to Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, into Western Montana, down to Bozeman and Billings, in a way that showcases their capabilities to not only Puget Sound, but beyond, and largely because we have a supply chain that's not only diverse, but because of the proximity to Puget Sound, we give the opportunity for suppliers to diversify, or for companies to diversify their supplier base, and still have the advantage of local, nearby, close, competent, high quality products and services.
Stacy, what kind of sub-markets do we find, aviation aerospace, what kind of sub-markets do we find in that area? What kind of companies, what are they supporting?
We have companies that are doing defense work. We have companies that are actually doing some space work. We do a lot of commercial aerospace. We're home to Tamarack Aerospace, which does winglets on regional and small planes, making them more efficient and more economical to fly. And recently the Kodiak airplane, is I read it's kind of the UTV of the sky in terms of a utility terrain vehicle that goes into rugged regions. And Daher, one of the 10 largest business airplane manufacturers in the world, owns Kodiak, and that's located right there in Sandpoint, Idaho.
Yeah, there's just a lot of aviation aerospace companies in this region. It's just really rich, and with aviation aerospace. Hey, just a little funny thing. I put a little post out in advance of us doing this broadcast today, and somebody down at Boeing in North Carolina pointed out, they said, there's a lot of aviation down here too. Well, there is. There's a lot of aviation in a lot of places, in the U.S. And so, but this just happens to be a particular area of concentration. And it's really amazing to me that we have, aviation aerospace, we have aircraft suppliers, we have space suppliers, we have electric aircraft, all sorts of things that are going on. But, a lot of times we don't think about that supply chain, that tier one, tier two, suppliers that are out there. Now, Mark, tell us a little bit about what's happening in your industry right now. I'd like to know, is it growing? Are you doing better? What's happening as far as like recovery in aviation right now?
Well, Mark, it's probably no surprise. I think we all know that last year was a tough year, and we saw some downturn. And I think within the industry, you saw some companies really impacted, but everybody definitely felt it. But I think we've really this year, I think we're all seeing a little bit of quicker return than we anticipated, which is great. Primarily, I think that's driven from consumer travel, people doing vacation and, leisure, recreational travel. I think business travel is still lagging a little bit behind. Obviously, the MAX has returned to service, which for those of us in the Northwest, which is pretty Boeing centric, that's really helped. And just in general, we're seeing things take an uptick quicker than what we'd expected. And that's across a number of industries. As I mentioned, a lot of the people in this area are not exclusively aerospace. The supply chain, we supply other industries and markets as well.
Yeah, I actually was at the Seattle-Tacoma, the Seattle airport yesterday, and I was actually quite surprised because I went to drop somebody off that was going to a conference in Texas, and there were no parking spots, in the parking garage. There was, but and just a couple of months ago, it was pretty much an empty parking garage, and so I know for sure that there's a lot of travel going on there in Seattle. And then I know somebody this morning that departed from the Los Angeles airport and actually missed their flight because they didn't anticipate that the lines would be so long checking in at the airport. All right. And so, Mark, we definitely are seeing an increase, in passenger travel activity. And we know that drives a lot of other things. But, listen, we're all looking at what's happening with Blue Origin and what's happening with, SpaceX and the space companies and electric aviation. And there's a lot of growth, in this region in all of these different sectors. But I wanted to ask you this, Mark. Is that how does your level of activity compare right now, say, to prior to some of the economic turndown in aviation?
Our company specifically is actually slightly ahead of 2019 prior to COVID. So we feel very fortunate. I'd say, we're a little atypical, but I think most people are seeing a quicker return, Mark. Definitely folks that are in some markets like defense and aerospace, that's stayed strong through the whole pandemic situation. Those people are recovering a little bit quicker. Those who are real heavy in commercial aircraft, it's a little bit of a slower turn, but it's coming around. And I think you and I talked prior to the broadcast, I think really the issue right now, I think it's pretty clear. We all feel good that things are going to return. Is more around workforce and having the staffing levels and the right kinds of skill sets to be able to stay on top of the growth.
So, are you finding a shortage of available staff right now at this point?
Yeah, I think this will resonate with everybody listening here. But skilled trades, specifically, STEM disciplines of engineering, quality, so forth. Those were all areas of need, everybody that I've talked to, and we're getting challenged everywhere from entry level to kind of more experienced journeyman type folks.
Yeah. Listen, Mark, I want to come back around to that in a minute when we talk about the second half of the program here today. So I'm going to come back to that. But I wanted to ask you this, is that if somebody is a supplier or wants to be a supplier to some of the businesses in Washington, how about either one of you, Stacy or Mark? What is a way that people can reach out to new companies? What's the best way for someone to engage in some of the new business activity that's happening out there today?
Well, that's one of the roles that our organization, that INWAC, fills, is that we serve as a single point of contact for suppliers, and that is actually kind of a two-way street. So if there's an OEM or a tier one that's looking for, a supplier, they can contact us, and then we reach out and we'll disseminate that information, to the appropriate companies who might fit what they're looking for. And at the same time, for companies, and particularly companies in our area where aerospace might be just part of their business and they want to grow that or explore some of these new technologies, then they at the same time can reach out to INWAC, to Mark, or to myself, and we'll then kind of have a conversation with them about what sort of capabilities they have, what they're looking for, and then do what we can to connect them to those companies that could be a good fit.
Okay, so for those of you watching, INWAC that she refers to, INWAC, is the Inland Northwest Aerospace Consortium. Stacy, tell me more about that. What is the Inland Northwest Aerospace Consortium, and what is their objectives? What do they do?
Sure. Well, our purpose is to bring together the suppliers in our area and present them as a united front in terms of being able to show a more diverse range of capabilities to those primes and tier 1s, tier 2 suppliers that are out there. We promote the capabilities of our companies. We provide them with resources. Mark mentioned some workforce issues that companies have. He and I participate in workforce development issues, kind of representing industry to sort of highlight what our needs are and what, how we might work with high schools, colleges, that sort of thing to fill the gap. Really things that we can do to support companies here to be successful in our region.
Okay, well, good. That's great. Because we definitely need to support that. I myself personally in the last year have really tried to focus on what can I personally do to help recovery in aviation, and I've actually done interviews like this. I've actually done 350 or more interviews like this over the last year, and it's simply because I want to try to help people to get their message out, just like this. And I really see a lot of traction that's coming, from us doing a better job, all of us collectively using this kind of medium, using virtual mediums and using, ways to communicate. Let me just tell you a really fast story. I want to tell you this, is that I went down to the MRO Americas a couple of weeks ago in Orlando, Florida. Okay. And I was walking down one of the hallways, and there was a person that I know that ran up to me and gave me a big hug. And I'd never even met them in person before. It was because we had made video connections, okay? And the person said to me, I feel like I know you, so much, and we never actually had ever met in person. It was only through video connections. And so I want to tell those of you that are watching out there, if you are not leveraging video, in your business, you need to, all right? And if you're one of those people that sits around on a Zoom call and you got their video turned off, because, you don't have your hair right, or you have some clutter in your background, you need to rethink that, because it's really amazing on how much connection you can really make with people if you take the time to actually do video calls, like this. And so, I think that one of the things that we're doing is we're trying to find ways to create new connections. And Stacy, I know that in your business that you're doing that, you're finding ways to create new connections. Hey, before I jump in, and I'm going to go down that path here, I want to just recognize a couple more people. I like doing that. We recognized Barry earlier with Moog Aerospace, and he says that they do flight displays and other things like that. That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Barry. And also here we have, I always have a lot of people down in Brazil, that are watching. And let's see, Barry also said that they do autopilots, which is part of the Moog division. And I see we have Kiramai coming to us from India, and I want to thank you again for joining us from India. But I usually have people joining us, North America, Latin America, Europe, Middle East, Brazil. So it's really exciting that in this kind of a medium that we can really, connect, with people like this. Now, Stacy, I know that INWAC is doing some things to help promote the industry, and I understand that you have a conference coming up. Can you tell me a little bit about the conference? What is this conference that you're doing?
Sure. The I90 Aerospace Corridor Conference is our annual get-together, if you will, of the companies that we represent, as well as companies that they would like to do business with. And last year, we were scheduled to go live in spring of 2019. And as companies had to kind of put their heads down and really figure out a way just to survive and take care of their employees, we let that regrouping happen. And now, as things are opening back up, we're thrilled about the timing of being able to be back together, even though virtually, as you just mentioned, that connection piece via video, that's how we'll be doing it. But we still think that there's opportunity for meaningful impact and connections to happen. So we're excited about that. June 1st and June 2nd, we are going to do the afternoon of June 1st and the morning of June 2nd, where we will have jam-packed programming, talking about with some great keynote presenters, along with then what really is always the heart of our conference, and that is the networking and B2B one-on-one kind of meetings that happen there.
Now, we're all looking for opportunities to be able to network and to be able to connect with people and to find new opportunities for business. And, there's a famous salesman, that I know who he always says that connections equals contracts, and, we have to have connections with people. And so if you're looking for business and if you're looking for opportunities to be able to make business, networking and connecting with people is definitely, a place to do that. Stacy, is this conference going to have opportunities for people to do networking and actually meet with people? Tell me a little bit about the environment. What are you looking at? It's a virtual conference. What kind of a situation can people expect?
Absolutely. Well, yes, so it'll be a virtual conference, but we'll have networking lounges where people can sort of do that cocktail lounge sort of a environment where you can casually kind of enter in, have conversations and shift around with others in the room, if you will. But we'll also have the opportunity to set up one-on-one meetings. And with that, we will have profiles that people can create when they sign up that sort of says, here's this array of services or products that I provide, or here's the type of thing I'm looking for in a supplier, or in even an employee or someone looking for employment. And so those will be tagged, and the platform Hubilo that we'll be using actually has an algorithm that will suggest, based on those profiles, who might be a good fit for you. So if I happen to be, looking for sheet metal, and Mark has filled out his profile saying that that's what he provides, he'll come up as a potential person that I should probably reach out with. And so that takes some of the work off of attendees in terms of creating potential matches and conversations, without having to, go line by line through a list of attendees and try to figure out who might be the best use of someone's time.
Okay. So Mark, in a situation like this, you're a company that, not only uses suppliers, but you supply to, companies. Is this an opportunity for somebody to come do business with you, either to buy from you or to sell to you?
Yes. And as a matter of fact, we are going to have ourselves and several of the other companies, members of NWAC, will have supply chain people from our companies that will be looking for business-to-business discussions to look at and explore relationships with new vendors. I think everybody is facing an issue right now there's been so much disruption in the supply chain that people are facing long lead times and so forth. And maybe there's a little bit more activity around exploring new supply chain partners. So there'll be opportunities to make your pitch, if you will, to folks and to form some new relationships. And so that's definitely going to be a component of the program as well.
Perfect. Well, listen, I think it's a great opportunity. I really believe that people need to use these times right now. Let me just say this, is that I've been saying for the last year that if you aren't getting ready for the recovery, you're falling behind. And I'll tell you right now is that things are really starting to move right now, especially moving into the summer, that if you're not actively engaging and starting to run forward right now in aviation aerospace, you are falling behind. And you need to grab onto opportunities like this and to be able to do some networking and find new opportunities for business. If you want to grow your business, this is the kind of thing that you need to be doing right now. Stacy, I have a quick question for you, all right? What are you most excited about right now at this time in aviation aerospace business?
I'm most excited about really the emerging technologies that are coming. I think that UAS is growing, unmanned aerial systems growing hugely, leaps and bounds. Same with the space sector. Everybody was enraptured watching that, Mars rover landing, and now, kind of the daily updates about the exciting things that are happening there. So anybody who has a love for aviation, obviously, gets excited about that. But and as those translate, looking to urban air mobility, so you've got electric aviation. As those things come on, it's, what we, at least, I'll age myself, but, having grown up thinking that, wow, it's, Jetsons so futuristic sort of thing, now is really, those are viable business opportunities for those involved in aerospace manufacturing. And that's super exciting.
Yeah, I get it. Listen, I was one of those people that sat on my elbows and watched the lunar landing, okay, in front of the television, all right? And so this is super exciting for me to be able to see, the resurgence of space and the urban air mobility and the electric and, all those different things, not to mention the core importance of aviation, of airline travel and, just commerce. I mean, our entire world, relies on commerce and on air travel. And it's such an important part of this. Hey, Mark, let me ask you a question. Is that at this time in business, what really presents the greatest opportunities for you at this time in business?
I think, within aviation, I think space is a sector that's just really been taken off. And so that's definitely one area of opportunity. I think commercial aerospace, especially as the overall economy starts to rebound, is going to continue to be good. Defense is strong. UAV is interesting. There's a lot of activity going on there. I think specifically because so much of that is lightweighted materials. There's some, in terms of supply chain, better opportunities for some pieces than others, composites and so forth. But obviously that's going to take off. You look at what Amazon is doing, autonomous vehicles kind of ties both ground and air, ties in with that. And I think those are sectors. And then green energy, which we believe is, we're spending a lot of time on. So hydrogen power, electric power, both in aviation and as a diversification strategy, even in ground vehicles as well.
Clearly there are as many opportunities and more, for engagement in aviation aerospace. I mean, there might be sectors that are up and down, but there are so many new pieces that are coming into this space that presents all kinds of opportunities for us to engage in different ways. And it really is exciting. Stacy and Mark, I agree with the two things that you said, and I think it presents so many opportunities. Stacy, coming up, we have this conference, and looks like you said it's on June 1st and 2nd, right?
Yeah, it's June 1st and 2nd, the 2 half days. People can register at I90 Aerospace Corridor.org. You can go there and see also who's participating in terms of from a presentation standpoint. Several of those things that we just talked about. If you're a supplier and you need to and want to engage in some of these opportunities, but not sure even what they look like, we're going to have speakers from Aerojet Rocketdyne. We're going to have speakers from Magniex and Aviation. We have speakers from DeHare coming from the Mazak Corporation. So all the big hitters in those new emerging technology spaces are going to be there. And it's a perfect opportunity to see if perhaps it's a fit for you.
Fantastic. Listen, I want to thank the two of you for your commitment to aviation aerospace and what you're doing, to help in recovery. It's just a passion of mine, for us all to work together collectively to drive and to lean in to drive recovery in aviation and aerospace. And so I really do appreciate what you guys are doing and how you're putting these kind of things together. I've done conference events in the past, and I know how exhausting it is. And so I want to thank you for putting that together.
Thank you,
and
Mark.
Your efforts, into doing that. But listen, right across the bottom of your screen there, you'll see scrolling there right now, it says you can go to I90 Aerospace Corridor.org and you can register for this upcoming conference. Mark, Stacy, I want to thank you guys for joining today. I really appreciate your knowledge and your contributions to the industry.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark, and we appreciate yours as well.
Fantastic. Hey, listen, everybody, I always close my broadcasts off with fair winds and following seas to you. And I really want to thank you for joining today. And I look forward to the next time that we can connect virtually and have another conversation. Have a great day. Bye.